Welcome back, everyone, to R2Kast number 74. First off, I hope you've had a good Christmas and New Year. 2 weeks is the longest break we've had from the podcast since we began 2 years ago, and I thought it was a good time because, as if you have listened to the Christmas special with Chief Shepherdess Zoe Colville and Super Serious Farmer Chris Woodstead, you will hear that I have got a new primary podcast sponsor on board. So it is very exciting times for the R2Kast. Scottish Farmers still involved, but now we have A-Plan Rural, and I'm sure throughout our A-Plan Rural Insurance, I should say, I'm sure throughout the podcast, I will have a little bit of information here and there about it. Just one last sort of, I won't do this again until Christmas time next year. Thank you again. A year ago, we were at about 6,000 views, and now we're doing that in about 7 or 8 days. So it's kind of mad that it took a year to get to 6K, and then now it takes about a week. So it's pretty exciting. So thank you to all of you that listen. Thank you to everyone that's been on the podcast. It's been quite the whirlwind. As of this month, we will now go from what was a weekly schedule and what was a year ago a fortnightly schedule to still the weekly schedule on the Friday releases with the People in Food and Farming part of the podcast. And then on every second Monday, we'll be releasing a group podcast, which might be with a society. It might be with, for example, a young farmers club, a charity, whatever. That's where we'll sort of try and showcase the groups and communities that are pushing farming forward. So yeah, it will now be a sort of 6 or 7 upload schedule per month. So if you enjoy the podcast, which I know some of you do, because I was in the top 1 podcast for 200 people on Spotify, there's more coming, and hopefully we can try and get over that 3,000 minutes of content created this year. But enough of my absolute nonsense talking about numbers that nobody cares about. Today we have, and I will use my famous saying, another interesting guest. For R2Kast number 74, today we have Luke Ablitt. Luke, would you like to say hello?
Hello, how are we all doing? You all right?
Just before we get started with another episode of the R2Kast, I would like to thank our primary sponsors, A-Plan Rural. A-Plan Rural are heavily involved on the social media scene in the ag space with 120,000 followers on Instagram. They use this following to host social media takeovers with farmers throughout the country to showcase their stories. They also post to their rural community blog with further stories about these people in the industry. On top of this, they like to support initiatives that are championing the British agricultural industry, such as myself. So thank you to A-Plan Rural for that.
Very well. It's a pleasure to have you on. Someone that you might recognise if you're listening from Instagram. You might have seen Luke talk about, well, he's one of the most educational social media accounts, I would say. It's Down on Daintree Farm, is that right, Luke?
Down Farm, that's the one.
Yeah, Down on Daintree Farm. So you may follow Luke over there, otherwise known as Farmer Luke. You've got a lot of aliases, actually, now I think about it.
Because Farmer Luke wasn't available when I set it all up. So I thought Down on Daintree Farm, because the farm's called Daintree Farm. So I thought Down on Daintree Farm's nice. Except on Twitter, it's so annoying because it's out of the character. So I had to drop the down. So it's on Daintree Farm. It's so annoying.
Oh, yeah, you find yourself doing some of these annoying things. And one that's quite funny for me to mention on that is obviously I'm Rural to Kitchen. I'd put 8 podcasts out at the start. Now, don't get me wrong, they probably had about 3 views each, but I'd put 8 podcasts out before I realised my YouTube was called Rural to Kick then. So, yeah, don't worry about it. You're not the only one. At least you spelled things right. I managed to spell kitchen wrong, which was great. Look, are you from farming? You're also farming at the minute. Tell us about your backstory.
Right.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is always a great backstory because I am a ridiculous amount of generation of farmer. The whole family farms. Like, people don't understand like how big the family is in farming. So my dad's a farmer. If you ever seen me on Instagram and stuff, I call him Farmer Clive.
Yep.
My cousin's a farmer as well. If anyone sees me share anything about Tasty Tates, that tends to be them because they do small potatoes and chip shops and stuff. And he's a farm. My brother works on a farm. He works on a sweet corn and pumpkin farm. So that's a lot more interesting than what I do. Also, my late uncle farmed. My dad's cousin's farm. He's got three cousins that farm. There was another cousin that farms, and my other uncle farms as well. So you can see, like, we've all got separate farms as well, and we're all Ablitts as well, which makes it even more complicated.
I think that was 11. Was that 11 people?
Something like that. Yeah, I could count. I try to go in my face. I'm just trying to go around my head now to see how many people are involved in the family. Sadly, some have passed away, but like the main, like me and my cousin and dad, still go. The same as
was your grandfather the first in that line?
I think it might have been 3 or 4 grandfathers ago.
Oh, really?
Because Dad still got the original family farm, if you
Right.
like, the original one. And I've got a Cambridgeshire County Council tenancy, which the same as my cousins got, and my uncle had, and my great grandfather had, and another one of Dad's cousins had. So you can see where this is going. Like when everyone says about, because everyone comes down and they say, someone knew you, so and so. It's like, oh, that's your Dad's cousins.
So, is there any other Cambridge tenancies by anyone that isn't Ablitt, or have you got them all?
More or less, we're all in. So, like, I used to get some bills from my cousin come, or whenever I ring up to order something, they're like, "What's the name again?" Ablitt, ABBLITT, and it's LR, and they're like, "Oh, yeah." Then then just hear them click, and then they go, "Did you say LR or did you say?" It's like, yeah, you need to remember that bit because there's no end of us. And we're all something R as well. So my dad's CR, I'm LR, Dale's DR, Uncle Brian with BR. So it's, yeah. But anyway, that's kind of the family background. So we're entrenched in farming. That's all I kind of knew growing up was just agriculture, farming. But as we just alluded to a minute ago, that's how the conversation before, arable farming.
Well, we'll get into that, and I'm quite looking forward to get into that because I will, as I'm sure anyone listening who knows me well enough will know I'll embarrass myself when we start talking arable. But it was all you ever knew when you were younger. Was it all you ever wanted to do? Or that was all.
Do and just walking about the yard and just being with Dad. Just knew that's what I just wanted to do. The same as me and my brother. It's just so I tried to explain this to someone the other day about that's how you knew you wanted to do it, but it's just because it's so ingrained in you. It's just second nature. Like that is your life. Like I couldn't. I try and explain it when someone said, "What do you love about agriculture?" It's like, well, everything. This is just me. That's what I do. That's what I am. It's just a farmer. That's all I do. So yeah. And then growing up, I always knew I wanted my own farm as well. Like I wanted to have my own one, the same as what my cousin done, because his dad had a farm, and then he took another farm on, so we could farm side by side. So I didn't want to wait for Dad to like pass the farm down to me. I started to make my own way, if you know what I mean.
And before we get into you making your own way, did you go to ag college or anything like that?
Yeah, I went to Malton at Northampton for a year or two, and then I went on to Milton at Cambridge as well to finish off on a day release, so I could still get some practical experience on farm and stuff like that.
So was that like an apprenticeship type thing? Or?
Yeah, kind of. I wanted to top off. I've not got too much of a good degree in ag. What have I got? I've got a national diploma in agriculture or something. One of the lower degrees.
Yeah.
I got that, and then so that's what I've done at Milton.
Yeah, and then finish college. Between finishing college and getting to the stage you're at now, your own bit, as you know, tenancy as you mentioned. What was in between there?
Basically, when I was a day release and stuff, I used to work a bit on the farm at home, and then I used to go a lot with my cousin and uncle, stacking potatoes most of the winter. That's what I'd done. And then whoever else wanted me, I did a lot of potato cart for a couple of local farmers, irrigation with some other people, just seasonal work, like a tractor driver, if you like. I was there. Or a lot of other stuff that you didn't want to do, like mending roadways, like chucking stone in roadways, like sweeping, hoovering. Very much a start from the bottom kind of guy. Got the worst jobs. Who's going to go in that small tunnel? Luke. And also what set me on the way as well was Dad. The back of the house, Dad's got an odd-shaped field. It's weird in the fence because they're all straight, but there's an odd-shaped field that Dad's got with like a bit at the bottom. It's about an acre. It was about acre and a half. And we had sugar beet on it, and the harvest didn't have enough room to turn around. So I said, "Can I have potatoes?" So that was about 8? Yeah, I was 18. So I brought a seed of a ton of potatoes, planted them, and then sold them to local chip shops. There was early potatoes. They were Premier, and look, without getting into too much detail and boring people, the chip shop trade is basically like the farmer will sell to a merchant. The merchant will then sell on to another merchant who will then split the bags down and send around his chip shops. So that merchant will probably have 20 chip shops, 12 chip shops or whatever that he supplies solely with potatoes. And you see, I used to sneak in there, being very sneaky as a young 18-year-old Del boy, if you like, and knew that I've only got a short shelf life for these potatoes, so probably 2-3 weeks, and that's it. They're done, they're gone, they're going to go bad. So I used to sneak in before that guy could get in with his early potatoes and sell mine. And because the chip shops loved it, they'll buy half a ton off me, or a ton if you like, to see it through the window before he comes back again. So yeah, they didn't have to stop like buying potatoes off him or offending him because he didn't know that they had like half a ton off me. And I always used to deliver on a Friday night because they always used to pay me in cash. I won't name the chip shops because of that. And then it was just perfect on a Friday night to have the weekend cash in your pocket as a young farmer that I was to go out partying with.
I was going to say, I'm sure it wouldn't win beer, obviously.
Yeah, beer, questionable nightclubs.
Or as a potato farmer, were you contributing to the vodka market?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've kept quite a lot of potato farmers in business over my years with that, in fairness. What was your local nightclub? Any standouts? I always love to hear.
We always used to go to the Lion, which is just up the road. St Mary's used to be the Horn.
Okay.
We used to start there, but also as well, my our younger farm days. Everyone's gonna love this. My mate had an old shed, which is like a brick building, which is quite rare for the Fens because we don't normally have brick buildings because where we are was the last place to get drained. So there's a lot of buildings only about the 1880s, 1890s, the early buildings you could find around this. Well, apart from Ramsey, because that was in the Doomsday Book, but like in our immediate area, if you like, the Whittlesey Mere. That's boring. But anyway, we used to have this brick building, used to be a cattle shed, and where they used to store the feed for the cattle. Well, we converted that into our own personal bar. So we built like a brick bar. We had like a dance floor area, put speakers in there. We used to go cash and carry or go to Tesco's and go buy a load of booze, and we used to go like party in there, sell it a pound a can used to be. So that was
absolutely class.
That was our little horn, if you like. We used to call it the Shez. It's like the shed, but with a Z on the end of it.
Because it's cool, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Tell us about young farmers. Young Right.
So I thought about it, and I do a lot with the NFU as well. And actually, Young Farmers is hopefully the county organiser's not going to hear this because she'll shoot me. But it's a lot. It's a lot more fun because you're not on about like what's happening in agriculture at the minute, or the Ukraine crisis, or environment.
Sure.
Like Young Farmers just want to have fun. What happened at the weekend? Like they want to do competitions, muck around. So I got back into that, like helping them out doing that, and I really, really enjoy it. Like I like giving stuff back because you don't realise how important Young Farmers is. Like you think it's an organ, but it teaches you so much.
Yeah,
really, like proper life skills, like how to run a meeting. Like I do a lot of AGMs, how to run a meeting, how to organise stuff, like chairmanship again with the NFU. Just literally speaking to the county advisors today about vice chairmanships and stuff. It's like the same as Young Farmers. I know how the structure works. It's the same, teaches you democracy and stuff like that, and other skills as well.
It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, I was someone who came from an island that didn't have a Young Farmers. I went away to uni, and I was in like the heart of Scottish Young Farmers in Ayrshire. Like it, as someone that's not in Ayrshire anymore and in Young Farmers, I'll be getting slated for saying that, I'm sure. But it's certainly one of the main hearts in Scottish SAYFC. And they're always, you got to come Young Farmers, you got to come Young Farmers. And I was like, it just sounds rubbish. Like, I don't interested at all. We had like a good group of mates at uni, and that was fine. And we sort of had that thing, yeah. But having a short period where I sort of set up Young Farmers at home where I'm from, and it worked for a while, but it wasn't quite big enough. But where I am now, as you know, I'm Dumfries. Yeah. I've joined Lower Nithsdale Young Farmers, and I've had the best 8 months since I joined. Like I'm learning speech making, I'm learning. Yeah. I'm in a concert. Like I love it. It's just everything's so much fun. You learn so much about everything. And I mean, I'm in education and agriculture, and still I learn stuff. Like it's brilliant. Really, is good.
Oh, it is. And once you make those mates for life, like people. Like I deal with a lot of people that I went to Young Farmers with. Yeah. Or whenever you mention it to someone like used to be a young farmer, then all of a sudden they go, well, I was as well. And there's just this instant connection that all of a sudden it seems like you just knew her for years, even though you haven't, because you said you used to be a young farmer. It's really weird.
Oh, really, where were you in Young Farmers? Oh yeah, I met someone from there. Yeah, and then
they start talking about Blackpools. Did you go to that Blackpool? Did you go to that Torquay? Did you go to that AGM?
I hear Blackpool is brilliant. I've never been, but it sounds good.
I reckon we was in the heyday when I've packed up about 2014, I think was my kind of 26 where it was after that. So yeah, I think we was the heyday before that. Like we had some major. Blackpool, I think, was on the Tower Lounge. If anyone's been to Tower Lounge halfway through the AGM, actually packed in there, the floor's sticky. And when you walk outside, like when the sunlight hits you, like, what's the time? 2 in the afternoon. People queuing outside the door to get in. The DJ's playing. Oh, it's mad, absolutely mad.
I've maybe got 2 years left, so maybe I will find myself in a black.
Oh, you've got to get your T-shirt as well. You've got to get your slogan on the back.
Yeah, that's it.
For your county. My slogans actually, because I used to come up with the slogans when I was a young farmer, and I'm pretty sure that for 5 years running, I had my slogans in the Farmers Weekly in the top 10.
Oh, really?
No, I'm 99% sure I did. I definitely got.
That's really cool.
You got 3 or 4 in there. The best one was, if I go on a tangent here, do you remember the horse meat scandal kicked off?
Obviously, yeah.
The best one I come up with was, you need a bigger tractor when there's more horsepower in your fridge than in your shed.
That is amazing. That's brilliant. I think there's another one. Want to join Young Farmers? Come and find us, but it'll be written Findus.
Yeah, that's good.
I feel like I'm calling out specific businesses there that I might get in trouble.
we should move on before there's some right dodgy ones.
No, that's it. Sorry, Findus. No, it's so. What does your role? We're sort of focusing on young farmers there. Like, what is your role at the minute? You're saying you're chair of Cambridge. I didn't hear exactly.
I think I'm collecting these like badges at the minute. So, Young Farmers, I'm president of Young Farmers, which I'm really proud of. Well, not the whole Young Farmers for anyone who jumps, just the local Cambridgeshire area. And local NFU, I am Cambridgeshire County Rep Tenant for Cambridgeshire. Okay. And I am the local branch chairman of Ramsey and Whittlesea, which again, it's not that quite big a deal. And I'm also on a committee for Kids Country as well, which is educating kids in school and stuff. Yeah. And I think that's all the badges I've picked up recently. Did I pick up? Vice President of Eastern Area as well, because I'm President of Cambridgeshire. It's like an honorary role. You do that as well. So that's another badge I picked up the other week.
So you're somewhat of a scout at the minute with all the badges going along. Yeah. I want to get into the farm, but there's one thing I want you to talk about. You mentioned to me just before we hit record. Well, I'll line you up so you can say it and I don't have to say it. I'm from the Isle of Arran, and our hill is about 512 metres above sea level at peak. Now, we are probably maybe 100, 150, but you're a bit different to that. Could you tell us about that?
A little bit different. I am about 2 metres below sea level as we speak. I'm in somewhere that's flat that used to be underwater called the Fen. I'm just outside, in between Ramsey St Mary's and the Home. I'm right in the middle of there, and it's the lowest part in England. So we are 2 metres below sea level. We do go up to about 1 metre below sea level in some fields when there's a little hill. Right. But we are this. I just realised this like recently as well. We were the last place in England to get drained, the Whittlesea Mere.
It's funny you see a little hill, right? When I worked in Essex, I vividly remember this field, and everyone said, "Oh, there's a hill in it. Just watch yourself." And I was sort of driving, finished the field, and I was like, "Trips, where's this hill you're talking about? Like, what field is it?" And they're like, "Oh, the one we're just in." And I was like, "That's a step. That's not a hill."
That's a hill to us. Like this place. When I look out, honestly, it looks like the American plains. Has anyone seen that? Like just flat for miles. You can honestly for miles because there's no hedges. There's very limited trees here. All we got is dikes and ditches and water.
Gorgeous. I bet it's lovely though. And does that lead to flooding? Or does that lead to quite a bit of flooding?
It can do potentially. We have a fantastic drainage system in place here. We have the middle level who keep everything moving quickly. So we have ditches and dikes. So my dikes are run into a district drain, internal drainage board, and that'll run into a district drain, and that'll get into a river that get pumped out to sea.
Right, okay.
So it's a real connection of like we need to make sure ditches are clean and stuff like that. And going back to beautiful, the sunsets are amazing because there's no.
One.
Sorry,
you'll have to send me one.
Yeah, I will definitely. I'm not caught one yet. I keep forgetting to put one on Instagram because it's not educational.
Oh, it doesn't all have to be educational. I started mine being educational, and then I post photos of me wearing Santa costumes. So who cares? It's all got to be fun. How far are you from the sea then?
We are about 60 mile.
Right,
from,
okay.
Round about from Stanton, something like that, 60, 70 miles, something like that.
Right, got you. And it's, so tell us about the farm. Tell us about the farm.
So the farm, here we go. So I always knew about the Cambridgeshire County Council because my cousin had one, my uncle has one. We've just been through that. So one come up to let, because every year there's some come up to let. The Cambridgeshire County Council is the biggest landlord in the country. We have like 290 farm or tenants on the estate. So it's really biggest county council owned estate. So that come up for rent just out of St Mary's, which is where I am now, put in for it. Done the paperwork. There is cash flows, there is business projections, there's your SWOT analysis, all this kind of, amount of paperwork to do to apply the application process. There was about 49 applicants for the farm at the time, and I got down to, there's a first round, which is the first interview stage, if you like. I got through to that, where they whittled us down to, I think it was 8 or 6, one of the two. That's when they picked up on everything, the cash flow, picked them apart. There's 3 people like interviewing, if you like. They go through what you plan to do, a bit about knowledge. There's a few questions about, just really feeling you out to see if you know what you're on about, and what you put in the application was actually you done it, not someone else done it, So I got through that stage, and then I got to the second interview, which is now down to 2 people. This is where it gets a bit more, not kind of weirder as such, but I can remember walking in, and there's just when the X Factor was on, the X Factor just kicked off, and there's a table in front of me, and there's 4 people sat there, and I walk in, and I went, don't press your button yet then, until you hear me. I was, I should have said that. So there's the top bloke of the council, there's a couple of councillors there, and then there's the Cambridgeshire, the leader of the Cambridgeshire County Council's there as well, and there's the farm bloke. And I did really honestly think, because my cousins and that run the estate, did honestly not mean I was going to get that tenancy. I didn't get a tenancy passed down to me. This is a totally new farm. So that actually, funny enough, my cousin had an argument with him the week before. So that was going to go against me, if anything. So
just quickly, did the buzzer thing not go your way then? Did they not take that well?
One person laughed.
Tough crowd.
Yeah. The questions were tough as well, because it wasn't what I was expecting. I polished up on my figures. I polished up everything I could think of. They never asked me a thing about my application. It was all,
really?
Yeah, no, it was how can I combat climate change? This is in 2011, and this is when stuff were really not really, regen ag wasn't on my radar, or nothing around here was about it.
Yeah.
So I just cut down tillage and stuff like that. Was the first thing I thought of. And another one they asked me is, what can I bring to the Cambridgeshire County Council? And I was like, what an odd question. So what can I say? 2 rent checks a year? That went down like one of the blokes, the patch officer laughed. He's like, he whispered something to the next bloke, which I think was, got you there or something.
I like that. That's a great idea.
But I must have impressed them, because they rung on the Friday night at 5 to 5. So I didn't think I got it. And he said, I'd like to offer you the tenancy of Daintree Farm. So that was a monumental moment for me, that I'm just all of a sudden now a farmer in my own
just
right.
Quickly, look, when was that? That was
2011. I was only 21.
2011. Yeah, that's young.
I was 21 at the time, very young. Yeah. I was the youngest person they gave a tenancy to at that stage, until I got beaten by someone by 3 or 4 days, I think.
And really? That's really sticking to you, that one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
How long was the tenancy, or is? I guess
original tenancy was for 184 acres, and for 5 years.
Right.
That's what it were. And then, because the holding I went for was 320 acres. That's how much this holding is. So, right. But the cost so young, they cut it down and rented it 3 years on a 3-year tenancy to someone else who just had tares, beet, and some other high value crops on it. So that kind of half annoyed me, because I like the rotation, potatoes every 10 years. But anyway, so got the tenancy. After 3 years, I got the extra land back. So right. I got it back. So now it was up to 320 for the 5 years. And then then you have to renegotiate tenancy again. And I managed to get 15 years, which is proper good. I've done some good negotiation. Yeah. So I'm here for another 15 years.
And that would have been what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, 3 years ago, about that. Yeah. About that. So 12.
We have quite a lot of folk on here, looking for tenancies, got tenancies, whatever. I mean, originally when I started this podcast, it was to try and show the jobs there is in farming for people getting in. And the running narrative, whatever you want to call it, is they're gold dust. It's bloody impossible to get them. Did you find that, or did you find you were quite lucky?
I was very, very lucky, but I sound so boring because I sound like so corporate. But the Cambridgeshire County Council, like I said, is the biggest landlord, so they have 4 or 5 holdings up a year to let. So I'm really lucky that Cambridgeshire was one of the counties that didn't sell their holdings off in the mid 90s when everyone sold them off.
Okay.
My uncle's actually had a few county chairman who was trying to fight to keep the county farms. But yeah, I think most of them got sold off around then. So kept there. So actually tenancies in Cambridgeshire, if you want a tenancy, Cambridgeshire, it's the county council you've got to look for. You've got house dwellings, all in, if you like. And if you look for private tenancies, it's hard. Even me now bidding for land, even though I've been established for over 10 years, it's still hard for me to bid for land to progress any further, because the amount of money you need now to rent land is ridiculous. It really is.
And I take it buying is just off the table entirely.
Everything around here is grade 1 arable soil.
Yeah.
We're talking, at the minute, I know the price has slipped. There's been some land agents going to shoot me. What we're looking at, 7 to 9 grand an acre. I mean, somewhere.
So basically 25 a hectare, so yeah.
I mean, that's at the moment. So, I mean, that could go up and down depending on what's going to happen. But yeah, so buying land, if I want 300 acres, I've not got a couple of million sitting about.
Oh, really?
No. If I have, I'll spend it on something else, maybe. So,
tenancies are always interesting. And it was really interesting there for you to go through the process, what was involved in that sort of thing. Tell us about the actual farm. A lot of people that come on this podcast, a lot of people that listen are from beef and sheep farms, and what we hear about is Scottish blackface and such like. So tell us about what is on your farm.
Right, so the farm is 320 acres. It is a ring fence farm, so all my fields are together in this holding. I picked some other ones up on the way, but that is amazing because my dad's farm, we've got fields everywhere. We've got 1 or 2 bits here, there, and everywhere. So we have got 2 fields that are linked. So having a farm that I can go from one field to the next field with a combine was just mind blowing. So we're flat. So we mentioned the ditches, the dikes, and system that splits them all up. We grow wheat, barley, potatoes, oilseed rape. We've got some spring barley this year. I've dabbled in millet as well. I've had a go at that. I've grew that. What else are we growing? Yeah, that's what I got. Oh, I did grow some celery as well at one point. I grew some celery. Celery. That was on a bit younger days. I used to push them around with my potatoes. So it used to be a Christmas market for that. So I used to send them out and just get them people like market stalls, if you like.
So, no, sorry, on you go, Luke, sorry.
No, I was going to say, Fenland celery is not self-bleaching, so you plant it, and then when it starts growing, you need to keep heaping the soil up, a bit like potatoes, to keep the sunlight off it.
Right, okay.
And it's a little bit different to normal celery. It's got like a nuttier taste.
Right.
So I used to sell that as well, because I like the Fenland celery, I like the Fenland where we are. So yeah, that's what the price is of.
I mean, when we talk arable, we've all heard wheat, barley, and whatnot. I always like to ask the random questions, but first off, millet. Tell us about it. What's involved in the process? What's the sort of market there?
Well, millet. Now, my idea behind millet, if people want to know, was oilseed rape wasn't doing very well. I had to rip a couple of fields up, so that was getting a bit more of a gamble than what I wanted. The potatoes are already a gamble as they are, so I didn't want another crop that I was going to be like, spend the money on, realise I'm going to grow, have to take it out again. I need bread and butter crops like my wheat and barley that I knew was in the same with the bank, and sugar beet as well. Don't mention I grow sugar beet.
No. Yeah, you said it earlier, in fairness, yeah.
I should think about that because they can't do the factory as you speak. So yeah, we've got so I wanted something that's a bit more of a guarantee. And I Googled literally what crops to grow, and I went through, we looked at quinoa, we looked at canary grass, you name it, we looked at it. And I settled on millet because millet was drilled around the end of April, May time. Literally grew wherever you chuck it, it'll grow. Gravelly soil, loves it. It goes for bird feed. Those fat balls you see in the supermarkets.
Yeah.
Goes to make that. So we started growing. I've had millet for 3 years. In the end, we're not growing it now simply because it just started messing about with the potatoes, because they combine it like October time. So when we're trying to harvest potatoes, we've got to stop the suns out. I've got to get the combine out. Right, here we go. And then it got a stage where we weren't putting the combine away properly because we had to go straight back into tatering. So it's got a bit complicated. Plus as well, I've only got 3 sheds down here. I can't use one because it's a potato store and it's foamed. I've got another one that's like a very short-term store. I need that for a workshop and to put seed and other stuff. So I only got one real shed that I can store wheat in or any other crop. I can't mix the crops, so I can only store 10 load of wheat in there. So what's that? That's about 300 ton. So this is a logistical nightmare when it comes to stuff like this. So yeah, that was another reason why we had to dump the millet as another storage, because they wanted it after Christmas. So it's trying hard to try and find where to store it. But yeah, really, really good crop to grow, really cheap. If you're looking for something in the rotation, definitely look at millet.
Sounds very versatile. Well, when you mentioned the rotation there, is there any diseases that are hitting, for instance, wheat barley that are hitting it as well, or not really? Is it sort of its own thing?
No, not really. No, I like a good crop rotation, and I try not to follow. Rape can't follow sugar beet. I try and keep that 4 or 5 years apart.
Right.
If I can. It's not because of the neonics that people think it is. It's actually because I can't remember, there is a nematode that doesn't like it at all. They don't mix very well. So you've got to make sure you keep them apart anyway. Potatoes, 10 years. I like to keep 10 years apart from potatoes. Some people do 5. I like more because I don't like using an MF4 in, because there's a potato cyst that builds up in the soil if you heavily potato it.
Okay.
The chemical, A, that's expensive, and B, it's not too good for the soil anyway. So I try and avoid using that. And that
was called what? Sorry, Luke. What was the problem there?
If you grow potatoes too close together, there's a cyst that builds up in the soil. There's a chemical you can use, but it's very expensive. You need certificates to put it on. Your machinery needs to be calibrated and stuff like that. Yeah. So I know that's irregular, but that's just another cost that I don't need on top of the already mounting costs of the potatoes. So that's why I try and keep the rotation so far apart, just to stop that kind of necessary building up in the soil.
Is 10 years common? That seems a lot.
Fairly. I mean, 5 years, I reckon. Some people do 7. It all just depends how much you can get round, if you like, in your. So I that's why I only grow such a small acreage of potatoes. I grow about 20 acre. Right. Now that's all my shed will hold as well. You've got to remember, I've got to store them all. If not, we're putting in pies pits. The old way could get frozen. And also as well, the money involved in planting potatoes is ridiculous, plus the money you get back. If anyone's watched on social media like a few months ago, I was begging people to buy potatoes because there was absolutely no trade.
Yeah.
So most people do. Cousin goes for 6 or 7 years. Some people do 10, even more of that. Another bloke, he does 5 and that's it. So personal preference really is.
Yeah. And I guess I'm going to give you a similar question that I gave you about millet with celery. What's the calendar of celery? What's involved? I'm going to be honest here. I don't even know what you use to harvest celery.
So this is back alongside my potatoes. So we had potatoes, if you like. So celery is planted in July, fennon celery, and it was harvested just before Christmas week. It's the best time to get it out there on the market. Yeah. I grew I could do like a couple of rows of it. I knew, again, short. I need to get around the market stalls. Need to get people to sell it for me. Instead of having my own market stall with it, I used to sell to people who'd done it anyway.
Right,
so so we used to plant in July, keep earthing up through the year, and then dig it by hand again with a fork, because that's how I used to do my potatoes. In just for Christmas week, and get rid of it all.
Right. And is there a Christmas market for celery? Because I'm unaware of this.
Yeah, there used to be. Yeah, there used to be a thing. That's when I grew that way back in before I got the farm, so there must have been pre-2011.
Yeah.
So there was a massive thing, especially in the 70s and 80s, a real big crop around here. My uncle used to grow some as well. It used to be like a Christmas treat, if you like, having fennon celery. It's a separate, like, it's not just celery, it's a fennon celery.
I genuinely didn't know that. I'll have to try fennon celery, because I'll be honest, I will eat just about anything, and I will eat celery, but it is not near the top of my list. So I'd quite like to try this sort of slightly nuttier one you mentioned.
I'm thinking this, I've not seen it for a while, but it must still be out there somewhere.
Yeah. That's quite cool. Yeah, it's just, I'll like, I you haven't seen enough of me, Luke, to realise that I am quite portly, and food is definitely high on the list of mine. Christmas, normally I've tried just about everything that's on offer, and celery has never been one that's been high on that list. So that's quite interesting here. Here, learn something new every day. Learn something new every day.
You do.
Mentioned sugar beet again. I'm going to ask you the same thing. What market are you selling sugar beet into, and what's the sort of calendar of that as well?
Now, sugar beet is one of them crops that people are going to cringe at and say, I can't believe you still grow that, or I'm still in it. Way back when I was a lot younger, sugar beet used to be like a major crop around here, going back to granddad's time, dad's time. And then it really went down because you can only grow in a quota system. So when dad used to grow it, you had to buy quota to do it. So you had to buy the quota to allow you to grow sugar beet. We sell it direct to British Sugar itself. And the sugar goes back on a contract to British Sugar. So my quota is I've upped it this year actually, just over 2,000 tonne. So I grow about 2,000.
Still quoted. Still quoted.
Yeah, still quoted.
Right.
Still quoted. You still need to quota it. But the thing that used to be when dad used to grow it, you used to have to buy it quota. And then it dropped down to ridiculous, like £19 a tonne, I think it was. And then the quota system just went because no one was growing it. No one was buying quota. Because why are they going to spend money on buying? Dad come out of it and he sold all his quota for £32 a tonne, which is more than what we're getting sugar beet. And he never looked back. He's never grown it since. But then this holding come with quota, you see. So I held on to it and then they didn't, you don't buy it anymore. You just up it to different bits on the forms. I don't know. I've got the beet fields to fill it in for me. And so I'm up my acreage. So we're about 200 tonnes. We grow it straight to British Sugar to Silver Spoon.
I would just like to quickly interrupt the show for a minute to give you some extra information on our primary sponsors, A-Plan Rural. A-Plan offer bespoke cover for farms and estates the UK over, and will give you tailored insurance for anything on the farm, from your old workhorse tractor that's been around 20 years or a fancy new and exciting diversification.
Right, okay. No, that's another interesting. Yeah, I've one thing I love about this podcast. I speak to folk from different places, different cultures, whatever, and growing different things. And I think you've ticked off about 3 things I've never spoke to anyone about. So it's
really?
celery and millet, definitely. I think I might have been sugar beet to one person, but you also mentioned earlier you Googled what you could grow.
Yeah.
And one of the quinoa, quinoa, whatever the answer the word is. And just a little plug for our podcast. In 2 episodes, we're going to have Emily Adicott-Sauvois, I don't know how you say her name, who I believe is certainly one of the very few quinoa producers in Britain. So in 2 weeks' time, for those of you listening, if you want to hear someone that is producing quinoa, we will have that story coming your way. Just a little side one for you, Luke. You might be interested yourself.
We're probably going to grind it next year. I hear what she says. Well, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, it might be going well, yeah. Well, Emily, if I've caused you some competition, I apologise.
I don't got no competition. If you see me and Dad work, there's no competition.
I'm sure that's not true. You mentioned there was a struggle with OSR. I'm going to guess that was establishment. Yeah,
establishment. Yeah. A lot of it, like, it's just an absolute nightmare. It was when we lost the delegation for it. It's come back. Yeah, like now, I think now there's a shock when it went. It's like there was nothing in the system to make up for it. Mm-hmm. Like there wasn't a plan. There wasn't a plan B. It's like, right, we just got no seed treatment. What do we do? We're still going to plant in the same way.
Yeah,
there was basically until now. We're a bit further down it. I'm back in it again because now we worked out like little things like putting cover crops in or just leaving the stubble a bit higher, put it in sooner. All this kind of thing happens. I've got the best rape I've ever seen at the minute.
Oh, have you?
Right? Yeah, we just drilled it later. Like, I don't know whether that's, it's all a bit of a gamble, but like at the minute, I'm feeling more positive about growing it in the future than what I did like a few years ago, if you like.
For sure. And I think for those of you listening, guys, we're talking about the problems with establishment and OSR. I'm going to pass a question over to Luke because you might have no idea why we're talking about it. It was a massive problem for a few years. What was the problem with establishment?
We lost a chemical that treats it called neonicotinoids, which is actually on sugar beet as well. But we lost that, which stops the stem flea beetle and some other beetles basically nibble it off when it's younger.
Yeah.
But then there was a bit of a derogation, there's a bit of to and fro with lawmaking parliament and stuff that it kills bees. So that we sadly lost on oilseed rape because oilseed rape is actually a flowering crop. So there's no way the bees will probably be affected. Whereas sugar beet we lost it on because we lost it all, but sugar beet is not a flowering crop. Yeah. Bees don't do the flower, the sugar beet. We got it back this year because of the I've just forgot what the thing that eats sugar beet off. But anyway, that was very, very high. So we got the delegation back on it. And it's interesting. We've got a bee survey going on the farm. So it'll be interesting to see if that's actually made any difference whatsoever to the bee population. Really? Last time she texted us and said she's never seen so many bees going like down a roadway. And that was near where the beet was. So, but then if we use it, there's other stuff. You can't have a flowering crop after it. So it's all laws. Again, for using it and stuff, you've got to be careful.
So if the problem was bees, which I'm sure we all agree need to be protected, but
Yeah.
you know, if that was the problem, I'm guessing that was with physically spraying. Would there not be a way? You mentioned seed treatments earlier. Is there not a way they can treat the seed itself, or is that not doable?
No, that's what got banned was the actual seed treatment.
Oh, was it? Oh,
Yeah, 'cause it emits like a bit of a aura around it, if you like.
okay.
Bees gonna get it. But there was some rumours that the science behind it was a little bit flawed because they just sprayed a bee directly with the chemical, or like so. Of course, it's the same with like if you drink bleach, it's not going to end nicely, is it?
No, it's not. Of course, it's not. That's a flawed experiment.
That,
isn't it?
yeah, that was some of the rumours behind it. I don't know. In fact, as a European Union was like, I don't know. It's a bit. I don't know why this thing. That's the problem sometimes. Without getting too political or boring, but you're not 100% sure what's gone on. Why has this got stopped? Because there's so many rumours as well that this is like a massive big boys club. If you vote for this, I'll vote for that. Like scratch. So actually, they're not thinking of the general population. It's only what they're in their little room, if you like. But then it's all us lot who have to deal with it. Like I had without getting, we're probably going to talk about this later. But I'd done a school talk and it was some older kids, and I showed them crop rotation, and it had ELS on it, and they're like, "What's ELS?" And I was like, "Well, entry level scheme. It's actually called a mid tier now. You know, this is what we do for it." That's it. It's like, well, why they change the name? It's like because of different people got in power, and they're like, "Do you know what? We're going to do something different." And they're like, "Well, that's stupid." And I was like, "You need to figure out that the more you like go with them, you're all going to have people that don't know what they're doing telling you what to do."
Yeah.
So it's the same with your teachers say about the government system now with Michael Gove, I think was in at the time for schools or whatever. She's like, "Yep, never taught kids in their life, but they're making the legislation and tell us how to teach."
There's the boys club thing you say is interesting. I mean, anyone that knows me that's listened to this podcast is thinking Wallace is about to talk politics and he barely knows who the Prime Minister is, and that's true.
Oh no.
I'm genuinely, Liz Truss just went out. I genuinely can't remember who it is. That's terrible. Anyway, I don't know politics. I'm really bad at it. Who is the Prime Minister?
At the minute,
It's not Johnson again, is it? Did he get back in? No.
I don't want to comment just in case it's changed. It's changed on a weekly basis.
That's it. That's terrible. I genuinely don't know. But my point is, what's that?
Ricky Sunak.
Yes, so it is Sunak. That's it. It's Ricky Sunak. That's it. God. Well, here I'm proving my point. I literally do not know this, but the thing I always thought I remember. I can't remember the exact titles, but I do remember when you mentioned Gove there. Gove got made the environment minister or whatever the word is.
Yeah.
Whatever. Was he not like some kind of other secretary before? Basically, just it caused a problem that he couldn't be in this one, so let's put him here.
Yeah, I think
person here, but that's sort of how it works, and it seems all a bit mad. But
it does because people make rules up that they don't know about, like the health secretary.
Yeah.
You visit a hospital, goes sleeves rolled up, tie tucked in. Yes, hello nurses, la la la. We'll go and change the system when you go back to make it even more difficult for you. And the same as, like I said, you've got people making. I don't want to get too political because I don't really know. The same as you, don't know much about it. But like as outside of you, they've got people who don't even not been on a farm before. They're making legislations. It's like I'm a firm believer in if you don't know about it, don't say about it.
Absolutely,
Learn about it. Like it's the same. I have to tell you one. My big bugbear is people that say, "Don't do it that way." Right. I won't do it that way. Which way should I do it? Well, I don't know, but I know you're doing it wrong. Or I know that's not right. You're like, well, no, I'm quite happy to listen to you if you give me an alternative. Like, I take advice from other people. You know, I make my own decisions, but I like listening to all the advice I can and then pick like my own way if I can pick bits and pieces. I don't like people who want to comment on something but don't want to follow up with anything. That annoys me.
And there's a lot of that. I mean, I love I speak to a couple of people a week these days doing this, and I love hearing, so for example, how do you grow celery? You know, like this question here and there, and learning about all that sort of thing. And if someone wants to come to me and say, even from an interviewer perspective, you should do this, tell me, shout it at me. I want to learn new things. But you're so right when they say you can't do this. All right, sound, but give us some kind of example as to how we can progress then. And there's just nothing. And that is such a common thing. Absolutely.
And that's at the minute. That seems what we've been hitting a wall in agriculture for the last year or two.
Yeah.
When I do that anymore. Fair enough. Yes. Near nicks again. Yeah. Yeah. Bees. Yeah. I'll take that. Yeah. If you don't want us to do it, I won't do it. Right. What can we do?
Yeah. Nothing. You must leave.
Yeah. So there's nothing in place. So I think that's why it was such a big thing, especially for me, again, being an arable boy. That's what sticks in my mind, because there was no alternative.
Yeah.
There wasn't. You can talk about the research and stuff, but again, it's like no one actually come up with a definitive answer like this will work. There was loads of research into it. There's loads of people that said that we're crazy not to do it this way. But then you've got to watch some of them as well, because I had this again with someone who was on about he couldn't believe farmers didn't do something a certain way. And I was like, yes, but you know why, don't you, mate? Because we're planting our own money in this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're getting paid to research this. I'm actually trying to make money out of this.
Yeah.
I can't remember. They're trying to sell some magic potion chemical and stuff. But anyway, oh my God, I digress again. Sorry.
Speaking of magic potions, this year a lot has happened, but fertilizer has went through the roof. How's that impacted you? Have you changed practices, or have you just had to go for it and take that?
Big time. I've cut down a lot. Obviously, we're getting away with the bare minimum we had this year. Whatever happened, it was something worked. Everything just clicked together, and we managed to get decent yields. Right. Touching 4 ton an acre in places. But well over that. I was actually looking for somewhere to put the wheat. That's when you know you've got too much.
That's good.
So anyway,
that's good.
I had to go hire the shed off somewhere. But anyway, so I cut down on that. Potatoes, again, there's such a, I know I keep coming back and someone's going to go, it was boring in potatoes, but I can't tell you how much they're a pain from the moment you put them in the ground to the moment you get them in the shed. And even then they get really bad in the shed. You really start to worry. So they're on that lorry and you've got that check. Because even when they're on the lorry, potatoes have a nasty habit of coming back to the farm because they're wrong. So they're absolute. So I only go 20 acres, but again, you're looking at fertilizer. You know, we put nearly. Well, I've changed my fert practice, but for instance, we put about 900 kilos of base on. I mean, when you add that on, we start to add up with the nitrogen and stuff you put on them. So we're looking at. I think I got through my cousin, for instance. He puts half an hour, so he puts 900 kilos hectare on the fert. Okay. That's 10, 20. I can't remember, it's 10, 20, 40 or something, or 20. Someone's going to shout at me. I'll get the numbers confused. I've got stuff written down, so I'd have to remember.
That's stressed. You're fine. Don't worry.
With anyone. So that I had to buy, because that was nearly 700 quid. I used DAP, which is a stronger stuff, but I used half of it, so I only put 175 on. But when that's £700 a ton, I think that's got a 1 in front of it again. So that's well. Yeah. Wow. That's still up there. So I've got to find that, you see. So that's a big cost. And diesel as well. When I was planting potatoes, that was nearly up to, what was it, 130 or 140, I think it was at one point.
Yeah, did red diesel hit 150 in that June boom?
I think it did.
I'm positive I remember. It might have been a day or so, but I'm positive I remember it.
Definitely brought some for nearly £1.30 a litre. Because my cousin bought some before he started at 98. And I held off because I wanted to fill up the tank. Like, I wanted to drink it a bit more. And at £1.30, the worst time of the year as well, because getting potato land ready, so heavy tractor orientated. Yeah. So we burn like 300 litres of tractor a day. So we've got 4 on the go. Like,
well, that's 500. It's not. It's 450 quid a day.
Yeah.
Oh, the fuel. Yeah, geez, man. Yeah.
So that's why everyone keeps whinging about potatoes. Well, why do you keep on about them? Because I don't think people give them enough credit to how much stress they cause, like me and other people.
I feel like a lot of people will be asking this question as we're speaking here. Like, why do you keep doing them then?
Because they can make you a fortune. Like when you're a farmer, you're a professional gambler. Yeah. Like every year is going to be better next year. And you just can't stop, because you know that the moment you stop doing it, because they could be worth 400, 500 pound a ton, and when you get 20 tons an acre, you're in major money quickly. But ultimately, you could be dumping them because they're not worth.
What's the sort of how often is that £400 and how often is dumping?
It comes every few years. I think the last £400 a year. I definitely got one in 2011 because that's the first year I started like farming.
Oh really? Oh, this is easy. Just keep doing this every year.
They come around quite readily. They're getting less and less. They used to come around about every 5 years. And in 4 to 5 years, you used to have this real big tail year. And then you could tell when it was a big tail year, because everyone's around here, everyone has to go and buy new tractors. to kind of get rid of.
Yeah.
I've never bought a new tractor yet, so when my £400 a year is going to come. But there's always that potential that it's going to reach it, and the year you stop growing it, that's it.
No, absolutely. I totally get that.
Also, as well, you've got the equipment there. You just do, again, it's coming back to what do you do? If you're not growing potatoes, you don't feel like a potato farmer, if you know what I mean. It's something you're always done. People cut down acreages next year because of the costs involved. I mean, I've cut down a bit as well. We've only got 14 acres this year because of the cost of seed, fertilizer, everything else. And my bloke that I know, he normally grows about 250 acres. He's dropped down to 100 because of the cost. Yeah, a lot of people are dropping acreage of them. They're not coming out of it completely. They dropped it because of the cost of the money to to grow them and to keep them as well.
Yeah,
a lot of potatoes are kept in cold stores, which are mine's not. I'm in a warm store because I haven't got a refrigerator usually like most people. But they're going to be, if we're not careful, the electric's going to be worth more than what the potatoes are. So a lot of people got rid of them early because they don't want the electric.
Just everything is through the roof at the minute, and it leads me to a question. We all know that potatoes are as volatile as anything comes, really, as you've just said, but a bit more stable are your cereals. What sort of prices are you seeing a ton for wheat and barley roughly this year? I know it's obviously changing.
It was but most I've ever sold a ton of wheat for. But most I've ever sold was 190. That was again the second year of farming, and I haven't got for feed wheat. It was low grade milling 270. A lot of people got over the £300 mark.
Wow!
But you think that's brilliant now? But I sold the last load I sold were literally for Christmas were 252, and that's now dropped back to. I haven't even dare run the girl back because I know it's just over 200.
Oh, so really?
Yeah, you can see the 270 we hit for November. I sold that in September, I think it was. Just kept going up. Like after I sold a load of wheat. So this is the thing: everyone thinks you're in like this year's harvest. If you reach £300 a ton, you're in the money. No, because practices is we sell wheat before it's actually in the shed. So I sold wheat this year for next harvest. So I was selling wheat at 160, then I sold a load for 178, and I was like, "Hello, this is all right. I'll have a couple more at 180. That's not bad at all." That was in when was that? That must have been December time. And then literally the next day, Mr. Putin invaded the Ukraine, and it went to 220, 240, 260. It just kept going up and up and up. And I was like, I've sold way too much already. I can't sell anymore. Can't get overtrade myself. So everyone thinks they made major money this year. There's a lot of farmers who didn't because they sold early. Because what we normally do, we need to get stuff on the books, if you like, so you sold it to move it and stuff. But that's the barley as well. I've never sold feed barley. I think I reached 110. I mean, that reached well over £200 a ton, 230.
Wow, it's over double, right?
Never got that before. But
fertilizers 3 times.
Every time, much diesel, much landlord wants a bit more because the prices are going up.
Yeah.
All the other things are going up. Plus, as well, people they're not shifting. As well, stuff's not shifting. I can sell it, but I just can't get it moved. So my wheat was going for making a low-grade milling. That's mixed it with higher, better stuff to make bread. Because I've got big grains, but the protein wasn't particularly too. So it makes a nice little mix, if you like, in it.
So low-grade milling. So I was always understanding. Are you talking like biscuits and such like, or are you talking like still bread quality? Still level 1. Is it?
Yeah, still bread quality. It goes to make bread, but I'm not sure. They call it a low miller. This again beyond, well, I don't know. As long as I get the check in the lorry, use the yard.
No, for sure, absolutely. It's just
it's interesting to know, but I'm not going to cry about it. Go and do something else with it. But then all of a sudden, it didn't make the grade. They didn't want it, so I had to sell it as feed. Feed wheat, which goes into animal feed like pig feed, a little bit of cattle feed, chicken feed. A lot of it goes to. That market's gone because the avian flu. People aren't buying it. Putting down on birds. So I've got wheat in the shed now, which is really getting harder to move at the minute. And the same with barley as well. That slowed right up because getting malting barley down here, especially on the black fens, quite difficult because we've got such high nitrogen content. I've only hit malting barley once, and that was
1.85 under 1.85. Is it under 1.85%?
Yeah, that's a bit like that. Yeah, and I go well over it. I've only got one ever done because that was on a stonier, heavier, sandy field. And luckily enough, I think I got a sample off the lorry, the right place. Because a lot of this stuff is done on the tiniest of sample bags off a 30-ton lorry, and that's what we get paid on. So they test the moisture just off that little bag they picked up. All the screenings and stuff else they're not going to pay for. the proteins and everything else, just off that tiny bag of 30 ton. And when you say you disagree with it, they don't want to know. They're like, no, we've done a sample. And I tell you what, the thing is that annoys me the most is when we get screenings, which are bits of straw, if you like, and chaff and stuff like that in the sample of wheat, for instance. They use a sampling stick which has a hoover on the end of it. So they put it in a lorry.
Oh, that's what's going to pick that up before the grains.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But this is something that annoys me. It's like, of course you're going to get screened, isn't it? Because you're using a hoover. But again, it's something that's not really been.
I did not know that. Is it 2% screenings?
Something like that. I can't remember the contract says.
No, I do teach this stuff, but there's so many different percentages.
Yeah, everywhere's the same kind of spear that's made from some different company. I can't remember the company. It's normally a red one. Have you seen it, like a little robot arm?
Yeah.
And of course, they're run by Hoover. They suck the wheat up. So of course you're going to get breeders not careful, or like they're a low bushel weight. It's like, yes, because the bigger ones are at the bottom, or like they're not.
Yeah.
That's so annoying that you get like that. That's what we get paid on, that little bit of back that we just going. I think everyone knows about how we got rejections and stuff like that. And they're like, we'll resample the lorry. And if you can get them to resample a lorry, 9 times out of 10, there's a different result. You're like, right.
That's
so
it
really is. It's such weird. I've done a video like how we actually sell crops, but I never got into like how do we actually sell them and how they go. Like you said about the wheat, no one realises all off a sample. So that one little sample is what we get paid on.
I knew it was a sample. I thought it would have been like 7 samples from.
No, normally the standard is, I'm going to get shouted because people know a lot more about this, but the standard is about 3 samples off the lorry, like 3 little samples that's in a bag no bigger than a sandwich bag.
No, it's tiny. I know the bag you mean. Yeah, I know exactly.
And then when they test it for moisture, it's only like a little teaspoon worth of wheat in the thing. Yeah, it's not that big a sample either. So if you sample it again, you're going to get different moisture again. Moisture is a massive thing for us. Moisture claims,
Jeez.
They always find something. This year's claim was because it's too dry. It wasn't with my merchant that I like, because there's a lovely girl I deal with. They found it was too hot. The barley was too hot. That was a new claim, and I got knocked a pound a degree or something. They managed to find
a pound a degree. A pound a degree per ton. I take it.
Yeah, I got knocked. You always we call them knocks. You all get deductions, and it is. There's more or less. There's some firms that are worse than others. I've sent lorry loads out of the same shed, and I've sold 2 to someone else and 2 to someone else, and the 2 that are sold to A person, there's always a claim on it. B's gone straight through.
But if you're 2 degrees off, whatever it was, too hot, whatever, that's knocking on 50 quid a hectare.
Yeah, 50 quid for the whole lorry. Yeah. And
low 40s. That's mental.
And they started as well. I know there's some people say they got rejected because it was too hot. So when you get rejected from a place, you've got to go and find somewhere else for it to go. And 9 times out of 10, you've got to have it like they'll take it somewhere else and of course get it dried or cooled, and you have to pay for that. Or they'll bring it back to the farm. It's like, what can I do with that? And you've got to pay the haulage back on it. It's quite this is the worst thing about farming is I hate that bit. I absolutely hate it. If you come down and buy something off, like they come down, take a sample, yeah, well, brilliant. Yep. We'll have that, we'll buy that. How much? Make a bid, you sell it, it goes away. And then all of a sudden, no, we get it somewhere. It's not what we want. Got to come back again. It's like, no. You brought it. Your problem. I want my check.
But you'll struggle to go back on your agreement, I'm sure. You couldn't be like, all that stuff is sold for 180. Give us the 240 it's worth now.
It's more now. I don't want it. I'll have it back. Actually, funny enough, people who did sell. They did. I did have a problem with the 161. I can't remember the claim were on that now. But anyway, I was literally said, I'll have it back, because I know that if I have it back, the haulage on the way back, I could sell it for 300, and I'll be quid in. But then the ones that went to say, like, I had a claim on one, which I think I can't remember where we were now. Whatever it was a silly claim again. They just, things were screenings or something. I can't remember where we were now. But anyway, we're going off track now. But it's such a weird system how we buy and sell stuff. Because I do not get tied up with supermarkets. I do not sell directly to supermarkets. People think I'm mad for this, and people think that's what we do.
It's difficult to do that, though. It's not easy to get into that.
No, my brother, like I said, he works on a farm that grows pumpkins and sweet corn. Really cool. The amount of times he's been sweet corning, so he picked sweet corn in July before we go combining. He's picking sweet corn, and so sweet corn's only got he's going to shoot me if he hears this, to hear what the shelf life, about 3 or 4 days on the farm, I think, something like that, in a fridge unit. That's all it's got before it needs to get to the shelf, to the market, to give them the end date. So they'll have a gang in, it's all hand done. So they'll have a gang in to pick sweet corn. They'll get 12 boxes up, or whatever the order is, package them, box them up, 12 pallets all ready to go. Where's the lorry? Right, we'll ring the firm that's meant to be here at 4. Ring the firm. Yeah, no, got cancelled, mate. What do you mean got cancelled? Ring the supermarket up. Yeah, we don't want until next week now. What do you not think of telling us this? What are we going to do with the sweet corn? We've got to go and dump it now. So that's why I don't get. They're forever doing it. Like 5, 6 boxes, lorry don't turn up. They cancel the order. Ring in the morning. They always ring at the wrong time when it's all up and ready to go. And so that's why I just don't do it. You can't meet the specs either. The only thing I could sell is potatoes direct to it, but then it's a lot more hassle. They want them in certain boxes, and the boxes to put them in are not cheap. Like, to store them in, they're 120, 100 quid. They're over 100 or 120 quid a box. Jeez. So yeah, that's just to store them in, and they like to take them away with them. So you put them on an Arctic, if you like, in boxes, and there's a good chance they might not return.
That's not fair, man. That's just not fair. It sounds so sad to say that, but that's what it isn't.
See, that's why I don't trade with supermarkets or go for the packing plant, because you need them in boxes and they got to go. My mate literally is always losing boxes. Like, they always go missing. I know the guy I used to work for, he was sending boxes. He was carting his potatoes out. He puts them in boxes, carting them on the lorry. They were going wherever they were going. Driver come back one day and was like, I said, did you sell some of your boxes? He's like, no, what are you on about? He said, I saw some near Hull. They got like 90 boxes up there. I thought they was yours. Could you get your postcode on? What? 90 boxes at Hull? They should be here. They should have come back to the farm because they own them. So he had to go and ring the merchant up to try and chase these boxes that got. So you're trusting people on forklifts that you don't know that they don't care how much the box is worth.
No.
Break them, you have to bring them back, mend them again, and they get put on the wrong lorry, go somewhere else.
10 grand worth of boxes sitting there.
Yeah.
If you're
doing bulk like at the minute, I try and put mine in 25 kilo bags to go to chip shops, merchants. They're in bulk at the minute because I can't get an order. But my mate's dad, he's had bulkers go missing. Like, they go, get rejected, and no idea where they're gone. How do you lose a bulk of loads of tires? It's such a crazy. People don't realise what stress bar it is, or what the different. Do you know what I mean? Like, go to supermarkets with bags of potatoes and go, there you go. Can I have my check, please?
No, it sounds silly saying not fair. It sounds like such a nonsense term, but it's true. It's what it is. You mentioned earlier about talking in schools. Look, this is something you seem quite passionate about, seem quite involved in. Up in Scotland here, we have RECT, which is the Royal Highland Education Trust, which I've been a vice chair of one of the countryside initiatives, sort of the regions, for the last year and a half. Only stepped down in the last month because I'd moved away from that area, but now involved again. And it's great to get out and go to shows and show lambs to kids, and it's going to be different. You're going to be showing course, but and them see that and understand where their food comes from. And one thing I always say is, a girl I know's friend had posted on Facebook that she had bought some eggs. This is not at all exaggerated. Bought some eggs from the farm next door, and the wee boy had said, that he loved eggs, her son. These taste different, and she was like, oh yeah, I got them from the farm just up the road. And his exact words were, I don't want eggs from a farm, I want them from Aldi. And like, that's cute. Yeah, it's really cute. But it's inherently worrying that that's the case. And I think things like this are great. And I know you're very passionate about this. Could you tell us what's involved from your end regarding this sort of thing, and how you got involved with schools?
Yeah.
And
of course, I've really got a major passion. I don't know where it come from. Well, my dad used to go into schools with our tractor when I was younger. That's how it started, to show the kids what you grow on the farm and whatnot. And I did it when I left school and went with him. Then all of a sudden, like a few years back, some other school asked me to do it, and I did it. And I was like I said about some of the answers back, the kids didn't know. And I was like, I should really start doing this a bit more. So I started developing and going into schools. Then I got in with Kids Country and the East of England Showground.
Okay.
They do special days. They go into schools and have schools at the showground, showing them about potatoes, chickens, you name it. They got like breakfast week I've done the other week, where they taste sausages. They saw a tractor. I spoke about meter square, how I plant wheat and what's involved in that, and the same with sugar beet and potatoes. And then I started doing I did that No, so I started with Farmer Luke before that, actually. So I went to schools and done my regular Farmer Luke stuff. Then I got involved in Kids Country. And then it's kind of gone from there. And that's why I started the social media stuff, because when lockdown happened, I couldn't go into schools. And I saw a tweet from NFU Education saying, could people do these lockdown videos showing what we do on the farm? We could push them around schools. And that's how it all started. And I was like, yeah, do you know what? I can do this. Instead of going for a school talk, I do my school talk, but in a video shape. Then, of course, lockdown went up, it was over, and I'm trying to go into as many schools as possible. I did. What did I do last year? The numbers just gone out of my head all of a sudden. I think I've done 49 or 50 talks last year, something like that.
Right.
And since September this year, I've done 36 individual talks, if you like. Over about
September?
Yeah, since September, I've done
30 a week.
Farm. I've talked in, so I get through like 8 talks a day. So I had the whole school come through. So I can do like, Kids Country, like couple of thousand kids come through. And it's, to repeat yourself 8 times. And I get halfway through, like I was doing a sugar beet, and some girl asked me a question. I can't remember where now. She sat over here. And I went, yes, brilliant question. Hold that, because we're going to get back to that in a second. It was relevant. Started talking again, And so I went to go turn back to the girl to answer the question. Wait a minute. You're not the same kid you were a minute ago. Oh, no, that's 3 talks ago. Whoops. Never answered a question. But anyway, so that's what I've done. So I spread it over. I must have been about 8 days so far, 9 days in schools. Do a lot for NFU Education, do the Farmers for Schools as well. Going to schools, I've done 3 of them already. So I do the Farmer Luke stuff. I do from ages 5 to 11-year-olds, and then so they get the regular how we farm, introduction to farming. So we do the farmer plows the field. Now, several people will pick up on that, and I have been picked up on it, that we don't actually plow the fields anymore. Minimum cultivations, a direct drill and stuff like that we still do. Now, in my mind and the kids' minds, I've seen these kids firsthand. None of them actually know where food comes from. They don't really realise that wheat makes bread, some of them. So they've just read The Little Red Hen, which the farmer in that book ploughs the field. So I'm not going in there to upset the apple cart to say we do it a totally different way, when they're trying to, the connection they need to know is we grow stuff that they eat.
They don't need to know about Mintel and No-Till yet. They can get there if they want, not yet.
Yeah. But then the older kids, so the ones that are over 11 to 16 or whatever, they get a lot more environmental kind of stuff. So they get what we do environment. Then we introduce then I introduce Mintel and what you actually do on a farm, crop rotations and stuff like that. Then the real older kids, when they get up to 16 or over, business. This is actually a business, believe it or not. We need cash flows and how money works and stuff like that gets spreading in as well. So they get more costs of the stuff to grow in. And as you say, I've got a real passion for it, because if you notice, if you've been around a supermarket recently, how many families are actually shopping together anymore? It's hardly any.
I don't think that exists. I'm a single guy with no kids, and but when I was in a relationship, I loved sort of going to the shop with each other. You can sort of plan the day out and that, but it's not a lost art, but it's like a lost bonding moment.
Yeah.
It's just there's one person in the house that does all the shopping and they get no credit for it. And it's a nice comment, actually. I never really thought about that. Yeah.
It's also where like the van turns up with food. So you said about
true. Of course. Yeah.
So you said about the I don't want the eggs that come from the farmer. Most kids now don't even know, like the old joke used to come from Aldi. Well, now that joke's gone, isn't it? It's now we just open the cupboard and food's there. They don't even see something.
Insane. That's a very good point. Of course.
They don't. Some of them don't even see the delivery driver comes, because they come late at night when the kids are in bed. I have a little one. He's 16 months old, and like he's an absolute pain to take down the supermarket. So I can see why parents or like guardians. I'm not getting into that colour.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's a hassle taking the kids around, so they're not doing it anymore. They are going by themselves, or they're click and collecting, or they're getting it delivered to the house. So the kids aren't even realising where food doesn't even come from the supermarket anymore.
That is a fantastic point. So food just comes from that lorry. That's mental. Yeah. A very good point. So
think about it.
That's a good one. It's funny.
They're not going to know, are they? So even like you said, so these kids. So that's what drives me as well. That also getting kids to ask about where food comes from, like what am I eating, like. But we're just as bad for it. Like someone said the other day about the iPhone you got. I've never put any thought into how that's made, why that's made, who makes that. Not at all. So it's the people are the same with food. Why should they, like, food's there, food's available, they need food, we buy food. Why should they care who makes it? This is why we need, got another tangent, this is why we need as agriculture to bang the drum for British farming, but also make our voices heard, to make people think about it, because food is just something they do. You know, the people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned a tangent. I think it's a great tangent. I like both the way you've put that. One, it's not even from the farm, it's not even from the supermarket, it's just there. And then that one about, yeah, just
like what,
yeah.
like, it's just the stuff that I don't think about, like how stuff's made and what like that. So why should other people who are eating food even care? Like, some people come on there thinking, yeah, they need to know. You know, people need to know. People don't need to know. If they can buy it, why are they going to find out where it comes from?
Yeah.
We as an industry need to bang on about how many adverts you see for an iPhone or Google Pixel. I love that advert. It's so Photoshop, those chips.
Anyway, it's dreadful. Dreadful. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, like, how good's that advertising? Everyone wants an iPhone. So, but we as an industry aren't very good. We're getting better. Like, the people you've had in your podcast are absolutely brilliant. Social media, putting it all out there. And we need to start doing more. We've got to think of ourselves as a proper business. This is a proper industry that we need to showcase and try to promote British farming, as in, like, advertising it, not just that they need to buy British. Mm-hmm. Like, we need to advertise to buy British. And also, as well, I tell you what, I'm really on a tangent now, sorry, but what winds me up is when people say, like, people just need to buy British, you know, just buy British, or we need to thank a farmer.
I don't. Well, yeah.
I hate that. I tell you why I hate thank a farmer, because I just grow the stuff. If it wasn't from everywhere else in the cogs in the system, it would never get to the plate. I can't make my wheat into bread. I can actually carve my own wheat because I have got a license to drive a lorry, but I haven't got a lorry. That's not the point. But we need that. Also, as well, I can't grow my own, like, seed. I can't put the research into these stuff near Nixagon. We need the research into that. There's so many different people involved in getting the food to the plate that need to be thanked, not just me. All I do is grow the stuff.
And I guess sort of saying thank a farmer puts it the impression that there's not science in this, there's not whatever, which it is. It's huge. And also the Buy British one, and maybe even more so than Buy British, I promote local all the time where possible. But the thing that always gets me is you should just pay more for the product. We're going into the biggest cost of living crisis we've ever seen. That's not fair to put that onus on people. And also, if we only buy British produce, countries that basically are built on trade disappear. Yeah. You know, and I'm someone that hugely promotes local products, meat, wheat, tatties, whatever, you know. But we've also got to consider that there's a whole world out there that's livelihood, that's you know, quality of life is based on this hugely, and we do need to still support other places.
There's stuff that we can't grow in this country. Like, we need to global trade as well, but also as well, when we're saying about buying British produce, why, going back to advertising, like the thing, why should people buy British produce? What do we give them that's extra to make them look our way and not? Mm-hmm. If you get the amount of people I see on social media, they're shouting at the British public to buy British, buy British, buy British. Right. What are the benefits? For me, I make sure the road's tidy. So if I come out of a field that's muddy, scrape up after myself. You know, if there's a kid that wants to see inside the tractor, I'll stop and let her have a look around the tractor. As long as it's safe, I'm not saying they'll go with us. You know what I mean? And the same with people ask about what am I doing? I'm more than happy to stop to tell them. You know, don't try not to chase people off my land. You know, try and explain, actually, this is a wild, you know, if they're walking around the margins, explain to them why they can't walk around it, because there's people, there's birds and bees and whatnot, and what's in the fields and stuff like that. Give them a reason to buy British. If you don't, just keep shouting British. It's like, well, no, the farmer was horrible to me. I followed a tractor the other day that didn't pull over. Like, what are these benefits? If you're not backing them up with something, you can't just be empty, like, just buy British.
Yeah.
It's all part of a brand. If we're looking at this as a business perspective, it's a brand. You don't see Coca-Cola doing something silly. I know I'm dropping brands here. Am I allowed to do that? Do I get a free Coke?
I wish. If we I think we've got two fantastic sponsors on this podcast, but if Coca-Cola were getting involved, I think we'd be doing some major business.
I hope you've kicked your feet up and got comfy and enjoying another fantastic episode of the R2Kast with another really interesting guest. I would just like to quickly take another second to plug the sponsors of the show today, the Scottish Farmer, and I would strongly advise you to go out and pick one up this week and see even more of the fantastic people that are in our industry.
I might just drop in John Deere, New Holland, New Holland, New Holland. Let's make some more.
Let's stick with John Deere. I quite like to start there.
Right, we'll do that then. So what, their brand content, if you like, they don't try and damage the brand. And I think British farming is kind of a brand in my eyes. And everyone needs to make sure they toe the line when we're doing this. The amount of people I see on TikTok doing ridiculous stuff that should not be allowed. And that's why I started TikTok as well. I'll briefly tell you why I got into TikTok. Because I was doing my regular young Farmer Luke school talk. And I said about my Instagram and Facebook pages because they got information about farming, how we farm, bits like that. So I always say at the end of it, and remember to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And this girl walked by and went, Facebook's for your mum. And I was like, right, come back. There's no gang. I was like, get it. Right. So I said, what do you mean it's for your mum? Why is that not cool? And they actually explained to me, they're like, no, because mum's that. And Instagram's a little bit too, not really, glamorous, if you like. And I said, right, what do you use then? Like TikTok. Right, let me just write this down. Right, this felt proper old. So I went home, downloaded it, looked through it, put farming in it, and was like, this is not British agriculture. Like, this is not.
It's bad.
I seen some stuff in there. I was like, right, that's it. Farmer Luke's on TikTok. And then, boom, I started doing my farming videos, a little bit of comedy for a start about, agriculture and stuff like that. And now it's going back to how we actually farm. Because I've seen these, I've seen a couple of videos where there's a trend going around where you get out of the cab and film it going by.
It's mental. Mental.
It's the safety aspect. I know a couple of people could jumping up and down, but it's more my thing is because I know there's some, was it 13, 14-year-old lads that are watching that, thinking that that's cool, and they're going to then try and replicate it. And it's like, no, you should not be doing that at all. And like, how's that again going back to breaking the brand of British agriculture? Yeah. That's going to the general public a reason not to buy British. Well, no, it won't give them a reason, but it's something they'll stick in their mind.
No, I mean, I love TikTok. I am hugely addicted to TikTok, I think it would be fair to say, and I'm currently writing a PhD proposal on social media and farming and the benefits of it all and whatnot, and I've just apparently put my thumbs up according to Zoom. But anyway, I just scroll through TikTok and I follow a lot of farming accounts and whatnot, and some are fantastic. Most are fantastic, actually.
Yeah,
but the videos that get traction, if you pardon the pun, are the stupid ones because it's funny, it's dramatic, and it's worrying. Some of the videos you get on there's that every and there is some kind of handling and it's that sound is used on videos of people just breaking stuff, and you're like, why are you promoting this? Stop it, you're causing so much damage. Damage
is so it's dangerous. Right. And then again you said about the science behind and how frustrating, how diverse the industry is as well. Like the amount of people and how complex and scientific it is and how much money runs through it. And yet it's just been undermined completely by a few videos they put on there that make us, again, you know what I mean? Like, food, no farmers, no food, and just kind of just undermining what we do as such. But they're realising they're doing it because they're jumping on a trend. Yeah. I saw and they don't like some of the stuff as well with, I saw the other day about sharing, about speaking out about mental health issues and stuff like that. And I don't think people don't talk about, they don't talk about it generally, but I don't think enough farmers actually go out and say how stressful the job is at the minute. These 40 and 50-year-old lads are kind of are just posting it, like reposting it because it's like a trend at the minute. It shouldn't be a trend. It should be normal. Yeah, it should be like people can talk about it. Don't just repost it. Actually ask someone if they're doing okay.
It's quite funny though, because I mean, I've been someone who's sailed through life mental health wise. I've been very lucky. And then the last few months I've struggled somewhat and I've went to counselling and whatever. And first off, counselling's amazing if you need it. Like if you feel like you need to go for it, Don't be like, oh, it needs to get bad. Just go. It's amazing. But 90% of the folk I've told are like, oh, fantastic. Do you want to talk about it? Tell me about it, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's still that, oh, you went to counselling. You know, there's still that stigma there. It's still definitely there. And I've seen it firsthand. Like, you know, friends, I don't think I've had any co-workers, but people, when I've mentioned it to them, it's like, oh, so like, this is not a good. So people say, open up, open up, open up. And I'm gonna say something here that's a guess, that's an assumption, which is wrong, but I'm gonna assume some of those people that are a bit like that are still those people that share those posts, because you're sharing a post. It means nothing to you. You're not writing about it, you're just hitting share. And I think it's quite easy to get across that sort of false narrative when you don't actually mean it.
Yeah.
I think we do need to make it the norm. I think we need to make it like, I don't like it's okay to not be okay. I disagree. I think it's okay for a short period, but I don't think we should normalize not being okay. You know, as a state, I think we should normalize sort of being aware you're not okay and trying to work away from that. You know, it's okay to not be okay has always been a sort of thing I've not fully agreed with. I like your points a lot. Very important.
Trying to work through it. I know exactly what you mean about it. And I was thinking the other day, because I literally saw that, and I put a story up about, actually, I'm pretty stressed. And do you know why I'm pretty stressed? It's because of stuff out of my control, and then went on about the selling and why I'm stressed. And I think a couple of people actually did message us and said they're okay. And I did say in the video, like, I'm not having some kind of breakdown at all, honestly.
Sure.
This is farming stress. I'm used to this. This is what I do. I know about it, if you know what I mean. But it just come off the back of, like, actually the mental health issues in farming is caused by some people can't take much more stress, if you know what I mean. I mean, I was pretty much getting the breaking point. I mean, I could do it a bit more, then I probably would have gone. But then Scott, funny enough, and that kind of, now I'm back to normal again. Everything's hunky dory. But
being aware of where you are, like, oh, I'm in this bit minute, and it's not going to take too much more to take me over that next level. Being aware of that, massive. It's so important. I think it's something I've been aware of lately.
I have these major blow up moments as well. Like, so something goes wrong. Either some spanner gets chucked across the workshop, and then immediately, right, that's gone. Right, let's go pick that up and carry on again. There's I tell you, my worst and most dangerous moments is when I have what I call an effort moment, where something's completely gone wrong, and I've gone and sold that bit of equipment and brought another one. Right, I've had enough of this. I tell you what, the last time I'd done it, I had to stop it because of financial pressures. The pressure washer. I had a pressure washer, it would not work. And I was out with a screwdriver. I was poking around, mending wires, trying to work out what was wrong with it. And I just suddenly went, do you know what? I'm nuts to this. Chucked the thing on the floor, went to the local place and spent $2,500 on the pressure washer. I was like, right, that's never going wrong again. I spent that thing. I'm never buying another one. That's the kind of moments I have. I've never done that with a tractor yet.
I was going to say that would be bloody.
No, I know someone who had a grader. Go back to the bloke I worked for. My cousin actually worked for him when he was released for Harper, and they were grading. They were lifting potatoes, and chains kept coming off, and the cog broke. And all of a sudden, him and his dad jumped like in the car and disappeared. I'm like, where are they gone? But an hour and a half later, they returned and went, right, clear the grader away, get everything out of the way. We just brought a new one. It'll be here tomorrow. Move it. It was gone.
Wow.
Because it kept breaking, and I'm a little bit like that as well. It's like, yeah, let's do it. It's gone. Kind of
brilliant. Yeah, look, it's been great. It's always cool to speak to someone that does something that I am just not involved in. And arable farming is that. It's really cool to chat. There's two things we always end the podcast on. Two questions. Time does fly by. Believe it or not, we have spoke for well over an hour and a half at the minute. Just coming up for an hour and a half. Sorry. It flies by when you're having fun. The two questions are, one, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So you'll still have 7 years left in your tenancy. Where do you see yourself then? Probably in the same place, I'm going to guess, but there's probably some answers there. And also, if you need tips for folk coming into farming, what would they be?
Brilliant. Now, 5 years' time, I think I'm going to be still at Daintree. Hopefully still be farming. I'll probably still have the two tractors as well, because they're absolutely perfect age. They're a 12 plate, a 13 plate, and my brother actually used to mend tractors when he was left school till but like 5-6 years ago on them particular models. So whenever there's a problem, he can mend them. Like today, I've had an issue come up. He remembers all the codes that come up as well. So I can ring him up and he knows how to fix them. So I'll still be with them. Might have a new combine, we'll see, or a fresh combine. But one of the things I really want to do, hopefully I'll be a lot more min-till cover crop based. We never got into that, but I started dabbling with that. Also, as well, I'm mixing with someone else's sheep, not mine. Someone brings sheep down cover crops, because I don't know about sheep. They're just legs. But so he's grazing them off. So hopefully that'll be integrated in the system, still potatoes. But also as well, I want to get, I've done a lot of lorry driving in the winter time when I've got nothing but to do. So I quite like the idea of having my own lorry as well. Okay. So that was made as a major issue a couple of years ago, still is now, getting hold of a lorry to cut the crop. So physically, the people want it. It's in the store. They can't get the haulage there because the haulage boys have been even worse than us. Prices have been cutthroat business. So also as well, I have a little tiny contracting business where I cut other people's wheat. And sometimes I'm stopped waiting for a shed to be emptied. It's like, if I have my own lorry, I can cart that away so I can carry on cutting. So hopefully I'll still have a happy life. I love where I am. I love my life. Like, as long as I make enough money to go on holiday with a family a year, because I think that's important, spending time with them. I don't want farming to mess with my children's life either. Like, okay, I know people think that if you this is a good tip. People start their own farm. You can work as many hours in the day as you want, but if you're going to miss out on family time, it's really not worth it. And you can be a busy fool as well. Just because you're out there 24 hours a day working does not mean you're earning money. You earn money sitting inside the office, working costs out. Actually, when you step out that door, you're costing yourself money because you need to pay yourself. So does that job really need doing, or do you fancy a day off to see your family? Because my dad used to work a lot growing up. I can remember him coming in. I didn't see him some nights because he was out on the tractor, out doing stuff. So I just saw him in the morning just before he left for work. Sometimes didn't see him for a couple of days. And I don't want to be that kind of dad. I don't want to miss out on children growing up. So hopefully that in 5 years' time, I've got the good work-life balance, if you know what I mean. When you need to work, you need to work. I'm not saying combining harvest, I'm a totally different bloke. Like, there is 26 hours in a day at harvest. But the combine, I will work all hours of the day to get done because I know that sunshine's not going to last. Taya is not so bad. That'll just help. What we didn't do today, we can do tomorrow, is my kind of philosophy. Except you see me on my couple of social media pages a few weeks ago, where I was getting very stressed. We hadn't got any wheat in the ground, and we was getting we was getting tight. It started raining and stuff like that. That's more weather conditions that we can't put it off now because now I've put it off enough. What's going on? I can't get it in. I need something to plant to grow so I can make some money. So hopefully that, and also as well to anyone who wants to farm. The first port of call is join young farmers. We talked about it. If you want to get any aspect of agriculture at all, not just farming, shepherding, or if you want to go to be a grain merchant, I mean, even if you want to work in rural insurance, because that is another separate insurance stuff that I'm pretty sure your sponsors will agree. Like, you need specialist people to do that as well. It's not just no one can walk into that job. Funny enough, that's what the wife does. But anyway, so so especially so joining farmers, you'll meet like-minded people. Two, try and grab opportunities when you can. Like, stuff's not going to fall into place. You need to work for it as well. So if you want to start your own farm, for instance, want to farm with land, if 5 acre comes up, go for it. Nothing's going to fall in your lap. It's not going to be the perfect farm. No. Also as well, listen to people, what they got to say. Like I said, even if you don't agree with it, still listen to them, because that little listening might come, like that bit of information might not be relevant now, but you wait till 5-6 years, all of a sudden, someone told me to do this. Try and network as well. The amount of people, the more people you meet, the more people you talk to, chat to, farm sales or whatever. I mean, like now on social media, I mean, I'm always chatting to someone the same as you. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this podcast if I didn't have a little chat with you now and again. You know what I mean? So that will come in handy at some point as well. Try and make friends and help people out as well. People will help you if you ask. People want to see younger people get on. So if it means borrowing something, borrow something. Don't be too proud. And watch your figures as well. That's the main thing. Like I said before, don't be a busy fool. And just because, like me, I've only got 300 and where we've got now, 350, 60 acre, I can't remember now, where we are. I know I've got this all written down. I've got a lot of things going through my mind at once. Like I don't need to remember everything in my head. I've got stuff written down.
Absolutely,
this is why we have computers for. Because a lot of people said before about going back to a few farming things, like they couldn't believe my weed identification is terrible. But I have an agronomist that comes and does it. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like there's people that know more about this stuff that I rely on, because I need to be everywhere at once. I need to be an accountant. I need to be an electrician when I'm mending stuff in the yard, mechanic, accountant, bank manager at times. You know, I need to be everything in one person, and I need to edge my bet. So why won't I use people whose job it is to be that specialist? So yeah, listen to people. Don't be a busy fool again. You make money by sitting working figures out, not being out there 24 hours a day.
No, I like that. I like don't be a busy fool. It's a good one. It's very good.
That's it. On 360 acre. But you think that's not a big farm? I could, honestly, to God, be 2,000 acres. I really could. Yeah. But I can't afford it.
Exactly, that's it.
I'll be broke within a year. I could be 2,000 acres on paper, but the next year I'm gone because I spent all my money on rent. If you want to pay for it, you can be it, but you need to make that balance. I'm not paying no more than 260 quid an acre, or whatever the last bid got it for. Like that's not sustainable.
It's not. No. Very good points, and I like. Quite often the tips are very go for it. Yours were quite real. Yes, go for it, but also sort of be realistic as to what the future is.
If it's not work, don't do it, because you don't want to undo something. So Dad always says that when one door shuts, another one opens. Yeah, and sometimes when there's one, there's two.
I like that, and I'd never heard that saying, or maybe I had subconsciously, but I've always said to myself, there's always an exit door to every door you go into, and it's the exact same thing. And it's very true. If you go into something, you go into a room, you're like, oh shit, this is not for me. There's normally a way out, but you might never know a room if you didn't. So no, all very good points. I hope everyone's enjoyed listening today, because it's been a very good one. I've very much enjoyed it. Always like hearing about other things. As I said, if you want to follow Luke, it's Farmer Luke on Twitter, or Down in Daintree Farm on Instagram. Is that right? Yeah, done that right.
On Twitter, YouTube, and of course the TikTok is Down in
Daintree. Of course, yes, that's right.
I'm down with the children, the kids.
Yes, that's it. I do cool things now. I don't use Twitter, so I've never seen it, but certainly on the Instagram side, the content is very good. It's easy to understand, educational stuff about farming, and that's for someone in farming. So it's very good to listen to. So I enjoy it myself. So go listen if you're listening.
That always means a lot when someone in the industry said that they watch my videos, because
I do. Yeah,
they're so low. I didn't even mention what they are. They're so low level. Like, have a look at my tractor. This button does this. That does that.
But that's brilliant. That's really good.
This is how a plough works. There's loads of people out there that are promoting British agriculture in different ways. Like I said about the blogs and stuff like that, people do. I mean, I haven't done that yet, because A, I didn't feel I was that interested, and B, we break a lot. So what today? Or Farmer Clyde's done something stupid, or something's gone wrong. We had 2 days mending an electric motor to put on a grader, until we realised it run the wrong direction. Oh. Who wants to see that? But anyway, so there's a lot of people who do it better than me. It's got shiny equipment. So I thought that's why I go for the kids level. Like, this is what we do on a farm, because I found a niche, because no one does it. A lot of people say what they do on the farm, but they don't actually say how we do it. Yeah. So down the farm with fertilizer spreading, I'm using nitrogen at so and so. The plant needs that and that and that. Brilliant. How you putting it on? This is how fertilizer. This is where I can be. This fertilizer spreader. The fertilizer goes in here. The discs are here. They spread out here. Sorry, I've completely ruined your ending there. I do apologise.
Not at all. It's brilliant.
I was not trying to hijack it, but like you said, when people say about doing it, that's what I do. And when someone in the industry say they like them, that's why I like hearing that. I really, really appreciate that, because you know about this stuff that I'm talking about. Like, you've been in a tractor.
A little bit, yeah.
So when people says that, it's like, oh really? Oh yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No, not at all. No. It's been great. I really have enjoyed it. So go check out Luke if you like the sound of that. Next week we will be for R2Kast number 75, and I'm going to say this wrong because I do not know flowers. Mum, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Almeria Ben, I think Alstemeria Ben. I can't remember. It's Ben Cross, who is I'm going to get this wrong as well. A flower grower. I'm selling it terribly. It's going to be interesting to talk flowers, and if I've tried to give them an intro and embarrass myself, I hope you look forward to a whole hour of me not having a clue what Ben is talking about. And after that, we've got a lot more coming up. We've got a podcast with Bizza Walters. We've got Michael Blanche. We've got Emily, I mentioned earlier. We've got Blythe Aitken, who is in Zimbabwe. We've got 3 or 4 more. So there's a lot more coming. Really looking forward to this new relationship I have with A-Plan Rural, and as the primary, and Scottish Farmer as our secondary. So I hope you enjoy the content coming up. Luke, it's been a pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
Really enjoyed it. Really have.
Perfect.
Really have.
We shall keep in touch, and those of you listening, we shall see you next week.
I hope you've enjoyed another excellent episode of the R2Kast. I just want to take this moment to quickly thank our primary sponsors once more, A-Plan Rural. If you follow A-Plan on social media, you'll see the work they're doing to really promote British farming and back our industry. It's been a pleasure working alongside A-Plan Rural so far, and long may it continue. The values of A-Plan Rural runs perfectly in line with the whole mantra of rural to kitchen, and I'm glad to have them on board. Check them out on Instagram at A-Plan Rural and on Facebook at A-Plan Rural Insurance. See you for the next podcast.